Hey, good afternoon, Section 74, Central Lakes College, Comp 1, fully online class. You know, we've got a strange January going on here. It's January 30th today, and the temperature in my little township in Stearns County here is 41 degrees. Seems like a good day to get out and start making some grape cuttings for the upcoming growing season. Spring's around the corner, and it's amazing. You take these, you put them in water, put a little dirt around them eventually, and you got yourself a new grapevine. To start up a few on the other side of the hill. You know, the subject, indirectly, of this little video is the first essay I'd like to talk about a little bit today in this humble English class. I'd also am going to enlist the help of the writer that you read last week in the Laporte anthology, Carlos Fuentes. Carlos Fuentes is actually the source of the idea for this first essay. And I'm happy to tell you that he's among the writers that I'm just living my life out with and enjoying. That's the story of an English teacher. You know, you live with the writers that you talk about all the time. It seems that the ones that kind of seem more important than others are the ones that I've had a chance to meet, talk to, shake their hand. And I did get a chance to meet Carlos Fuentes way back in around 1994 and 1995. The story was, I think, worth it. It's not very long. I took a bunch of students in my old teaching life down to the College of St. Thomas. And Carlos Fuentes, there's an auditorium there, maybe 250, 300 people. And he just looked like $1 million wearing this double-breasted suit. And he was so smart in this hour-and-a-half lecture that he delivered. And has a lot of ideas in his head that are, you know, probably maybe hard for us to get our heads around. For almost an hour. He talked about the idea that the United States and Mexico, for instance, should eliminate the border, that people from Mexico should just come north to the United States and we should be able to go down, just sort of one bit bigger America. I don't know what you think about that, but when the evening was near done, he finishes up around 9:30, and I said, well, you know, let's get in the van, head back to school. All these students said, no way, we're not leaving. We're not leaving until you meet him. I was like, okay, fine. So I got in line, which was, you know, at least a half an hour, 35 minutes long, and the book signing line. And everybody's got a book except me. So I get to the front of the line, and for some reason he must have known my students were, you know, sort of coming close and seeing the big moment where the teacher, Johnson, gets to meet the writer. And he stood up for me. I was one of the last people. And I get to the front, and he greets me very graciously. And I said, Mr. Fuentes, I don't have a book for you to sign, but is there a chance you could answer a question about your 1959 novel, The Death of Artemio Cruz? He says, shoot, go for it. The novel, if I could editorialize Comp 1, is completely crazy. It's written in all tenses, all persons, and I get to Fuentes, and I shake his hand, and all of a sudden, I've got to know the identity behind the first person pronoun I, in this, or you rather, the second person pronoun. And I asked him that. I said, you use the second person in that novel. Who's behind it? Who's behind the you? Is it God? Is it the devil? Is it conscience? Is it consciousness? What is it? And he laughed out loud. This is not my finest hour. He laughed out loud. And he said, he's just talking to himself. It's Artemio, just talking to himself. I stood there kind of with, seriously? Seriously, that's it? And he could see that I was completely incredulous. And my students started laughing. That was fun. And then Carlos Fuentes kind of got towards me, and he said, you know, don't you talk to yourself? Don't you ever just wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and go, you big dummy? Why did you do that? And I said the obvious. I do that all the time. And then he took his fist and pretty hard gave me a punch on the arm, you know. And then he posed for a picture with me, put his arm around me, and my students, oh my goodness, they mocked me and hazed me halfway to St. Cloud, Minnesota from the cities. At one point I said, do I have to pull over this van? And the next day I got back in that classroom, my old classroom. I said, you know what the truth of it is? Carlos Fuentes didn't want me to know the secret of that novel. He wants me to keep reading it and reading it for ever deeper meaning. How do you think that went over? Not too well. Let's go up and feed my birds, and I'll give you the lowdown, so to speak, on this paper. Come on. So, Comp 1, the beginning of this idea is this. Carlos Fuentes is the origin of the idea for our next paper. Here in my wood stove whining away in the background. Last week, I invited you to do this. Take the alphabet in your journals, your academic journals, type out the alphabet in a vertical column, A to Z. And I saw you do this, and I really admired many of your lists. Then I told you to take each one of those letters and write out either the most important thing that you could think of, or maybe the first flash thought. You know, A is for apple. If that's how you started, that's just fine. But what I'm excited to tell you about is a great idea for one of Carlos Fuentes' books. I can't tell you I've read them all. I've read about half of his novels, and I've read a couple of his collections of essays. And of these, the most beautiful is a book called Carlos Fuentes A to Z, where guess what? He did exactly that. He took the alphabet one day at his desk, wrote it out, and then he tried to think of the most important thing that he could think of, that each letter started up word-wise. I can't remember all of them. It's been a couple years since I've had the book in my hands. I do remember that the first one, A, was amor. He wrote about that. When he got to the letter C, he wrote about his beloved son, Carlito. Oh, those are my guinea hens. A son that he lost, terrifyingly, because of a congenital heart defect when the boy was only 20 years old. That essay has Fuentes imagining the ghost of his son visiting him. And so forth, on down the line. When he got to X, well, he wrote about xenophobia. Now this is Comp 1, so obviously I'm not going to have you write 26 different essays. But for this first one, this first essay, do this. With a keyboard or with a pen that tells the truth, go into that list of yours and find one item that you think you can write an entire essay about. An essay. Shoot for 5 to 7 paragraphs, 600 to 800 words. If you go past that, you know, that's fine. Now, I'm not going to give you a lot of hints, a lot of do's and don'ts on this essay anyway, but just a bit of a tip. Your essays, potential essay list, all of your A to Z's, have both concrete and abstract things in them, words in them. And I talk about this later in one of my videos, the difference between concrete language and abstract language. And you know, let's be frank. If there's something on the list that's an abstraction, like freedom, you know, what does that mean? What does that mean and to who? If you pick freedom, you're going to have to come up with concrete examples. You know, what are you talking about? What do you mean? As I say elsewhere in these videos, Aristotle says that you can make a point really only 2 ways, with enthymemes and examples. He says there is no third way. On the other end of things, if you pick something really abstract, you're probably going to have to give me examples of it, right? So it kind of cuts both ways. Also, in one of your journal entries, I invited you to talk about experiences that you previously had with English classes. I also have asked you, how do you feel about essays? What's your experience with them? Do you read them very often? Do you have any good or bad memories of writing them? We had some baggage there, and for this essay in particular, let's try and clear just a little bit of that away. I don't want to be the saboteur of whatever high school English teachers you've had, and I certainly don't want to put down anything that you might have heard, especially in another, I don't know, English class anywhere near Brainerd or by Brainerd. But let's get a few things just sort of cleared away. If you've been told, for instance, by a previous English teacher, don't use the first person ever. Well, I think I covered elsewhere in these videos, but they want you to write in a distant third-person omniscient voice so you don't become the subject. And I understand that. They also want you to have a little bit of a more formal voice. Forget that here. Sprinkle the first-person pronoun on this essay like salt. Okay, don't worry about it. You've also got all kinds of other stuff up there too. Your high school English teachers or your grandma maybe told you that you should never begin a sentence with a conjunction, or that you should never end a sentence with a preposition. That's a bunch of hooey, okay? Fowler's modern English usage allows for both.
Okay? It's not easy to do either way, but you can. It's not like some grammar crime that goes on your permanent record. I think I got another one here. Oh yeah. You were probably told in high school that when you start an essay, you better have an attention-getting first sentence. Well, I'll tell you a little secret. If your first sentence does not get my attention, I'm going to keep reading. Do you think I'm going to stop? Your first best sentence in any essay is probably not going to be sentence 1. Get one down, get the wheel spinning, and get going. English teachers are famous for constraints and for stuff like this. But let's give you 5-6 days on this, maybe by the weekend. And I do look forward to reading your Carlos Fuentes A to Z essays. And you let it take whatever form you'd like it to take. Maybe there's an argument you want to make. Maybe you just want to tell me that this thing is important to you. Maybe you want to tell me a story. That's how we're going to end the semester, but it's not a bad way to begin it either. If you have any questions or concerns about this essay, after this video or after the additional stuff that I post up in the news item after I go for a little run here on this 41-degree day, email me. Email me if you have any questions, concerns, or sharply worded criticisms. Any bird watchers in this class? Those are my personal chickadees. See you in the next video.